another thing that I think is really important to highlight is that the government is actually taking property from these farmers away. Now, this to me should send off huge alarm bells, and to everybody that's listening. When you have government seizure of property, of people's private property, you do not have any rights as a government to simply come in and take other people's things for something that is quote unquote the greater good. When you look at history, these types of tactics have been employed countless times. When you have centralized authorities to try to take control of people's things, when you look at the Soviets and what they did with centralized farm distribution and trying to delineate how all the different groups were to run everything from that centralized control, this is quite alarming. So there's an article on farmersforum.com, and it says 600 Dutch farmers face the forced sale of their farms to their unmoved national government in the next year, according to a recent report. In an interview with UK-based news agency, political commentator Eva Vlaardingerbroek, excuse me for mispronouncing that, highlights Dutch farmers' continued outrage with the Netherlands government in the wake of the recently announced farm buy-up plan. It's a key measure in a new environmental report released by the Dutch state in reaction to farmer protests that have rolled in Holland since the spring after a prosecutor report sparked great upset in the ag sector. The outcome of the new program is worse. They're going to expropriate, forcefully buy out 600 farms the next year, Amsterdam-based Vlaardingerbroek tells Mark Stein in the online broadcast. Adding dismissively, but it sounds a little nicer in the way that it's written in the title, in the little text. Instead of changing anything, they just change the tone. By forcibly cutting the number of cattle and farms as well as fertilizers used in agriculture, the Dutch government aims to reduce nitrogen oxide emissions from agriculture, all in pursuit of controversial climate change goals. So, one thing that is important to highlight here is that, again, this is done for the purpose of quote unquote climate change goals, climate change amelioration. However, the real issue here isn't one of climate change, it's one of pollution. It's simply a question of pollution, because when it comes to nitrogen, one of the issues here is ammonia runoff. That's what they're talking about. They want to reduce ammonia. In addition to that, the other issue with nitrogen comes from NOx gases, right? So you have nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide, right? And what these do are they're emitted via the tractors. So those are the two essentially points of contention. Number one, you have ammonia, which is the runoff that's used from the fertilizers, and that runoff apparently goes into the streams and the sensitive ecological areas. And the second issue is the emissions of the nitrous oxides from the tractors that are used. Now, so let's just break that down, because when you look at it, okay, so these are the two problems, but when it comes to the solutions that are being proposed, the issue here is not, okay, we can say whatever we want about those targets. Let's say, okay, let's go for those targets. Let's do the reductions. However, when it comes to the actual solutions that we're using, why is the government just simply saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to axe this whole thing. 30% of your cattle, your pigs, just cut it. I mean, that's one way of reducing emissions. However, there's many ways to skin a cat. So there's many different technologies that exist in order to treat both of these issues, whether it's the air quality issues from the NOx, nitrous oxides, or the ammonia runoff, NH3. Both of these have technology. These are not new things. So why are we looking at such extreme measures for forceful government buying of? So they're making it sound nice. Oh, they're buying. They're not just forcefully forcing you to sell it, but they're forcing you to sell it, and they're going to give you some money for it in order to protect these lands. Now, let's just get one thing straight. During a time of inflation, we're in a time of global inflation. It's impacting everyone. They want to reduce the supply of goods which will make products more expensive. Think about it. What they want to do with these tactics is reduce the output of farms, right? Because that's the only way to ameliorate the situation. They're literally buying farms. They're stealing farms. Correction. They're stealing farms from people. They're taking people's livelihoods away in order to achieve this goal, of bettering humanity, bettering the community on a communal scale. Now, whenever you sacrifice the rights of the individuals for the rights of the group, we have an issue here. We have a problem. This is where Marxist-communist centralized authoritarian systems come in. When you have, when you're giving up the rights of the individual for the collective, for the community. And just to get back to my previous point, what you're doing, even though you're claiming it's for the collective good, you're actually making people's lives more miserable. Why? Because we already have record inflation. We already have people that are poor, that are living at the margins. In Canada, you have medical assistance in dying. And what's happening is that people are becoming so poor, instead of going through life, excuse me, I'm so passionate. Instead of going through life as a poor person, as somebody that's just living on the margins, they would rather commit suicide. But it's supported by the government, so it's all good.
In the past 2 weeks alone, she's fielded 5 calls from clients seeking help in ending their own life.
So people are so desperate, they're coming here for food, but then they're asking you about assisted suicide?
Yes.
You're having people ask you about assisted suicide?
Yes. When I say that this is an emergency in the community, people who are living at the bottom income percentile in our community are talking to us now about taking their own lives because it's too hard to be poor any longer.
This is what's happening right now. And they want to exacerbate the problem again by reducing the area of land that the farmers have in order to operate. You're going to reduce the supply of goods. When you have less things in the market, when you have less things being produced in the market, that drives up the price, that increases the cost. If you had one iPhone out there, that's going to be one damn expensive iPhone because it's the only one. But if everybody had an iPhone, if everybody had 10 iPhones, all of a sudden, an iPhone isn't all that expensive or valuable. This is what's happening, guys. So in the middle of record inflation, they want to make things even harder for people and then claim that it's for the benefit of everyone. This is where you can't write this stuff, and this is where once you start to uncover what is happening and the farce that is taking place, you truly do have to listen up.